A man who makes more than most Americans is secretly broke every single month. Last week, at exactly 2:17 in the morning, I received a message that I have seen dozens of times before, but it never stops shocking me. The message said this: I make $6,000 a month. I have no kids. I have no car payment. I have no credit card debt. I pay rent and basic bills, and somehow, by the 30th of every month, I have exactly $80 left in my account. I do not go on vacations. I do not buy expensive things. I genuinely cannot tell you where the money went. This man is not lazy. He works a full-time job. He shows up every day. He is not reckless or irresponsible. He just never learned the habits that protect money. The Bible actually has a name for this kind of suffering. It is not the poverty that comes from disaster, job loss, or medical emergencies. It is the poverty that comes from ignoring wisdom. Poverty, in most cases, is not a single catastrophic event that destroys you overnight. Poverty is what happens when you repeat the same financial mistakes over and over and over until those mistakes become your permanent reality. And here is the part that most people miss, the part that keeps them trapped for decades. You can earn more money and still end up with absolutely nothing if your habits do not change. You can get a raise, start a side hustle, win the lottery, and still be broke a year later because the problem was never the income. The problem was always the habits. In the next 25 minutes, you are going to discover the exact 5 biblical habits that flip this cycle completely, and if you apply just one of them starting this week, I can promise you that your financial future will never look the same again. Before we go any further, we need to anchor everything on one single verse, because without this foundation, everything else is just advice. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 4 says this: Lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. Now, this is not just a nice suggestion from an ancient book that may or may not apply to your modern life. This is a formula. This is a law that works in any economy, in any country, in any generation, for any person who is willing to apply it. The Bible, throughout its entire message, directly connects your daily habits with your long-term outcomes. Your financial reality right now is not shaped by random luck. It is not shaped by sudden windfalls. It is not shaped by the stock market, the economy, or even the job you have. Your financial reality is shaped by what you do every single day when no one is watching. If you plant the same habits day after day, you will harvest the same results year after year. But the moment you change the habits, you change the harvest. This is not motivational theory. This is not positive thinking. This is biblical law, and it has been proven true for thousands of years. Now, let me give you a clear picture of what we are going to cover today, because I do not want you to get lost in the details. Across thousands of years of human history, across every culture, every economy, every social structure that has ever existed, there are 5 habits that determine whether you experience financial freedom or financial chaos for the rest of your life. The first habit is diligence, and diligence creates the foundation for everything else. The second habit is discipline, and discipline protects whatever your diligence builds. The third habit is honesty, and honesty is what unlocks long-term blessing in ways that shortcuts and manipulation never can. The fourth habit is planning, and planning is what turns chaos into clarity and stress into peace. The fifth habit is generosity, and generosity is what activates supernatural provision beyond anything you can earn or plan for on your own. These 5 habits work for anyone, at any income level, in any season of life. If you adopt them, the Bible promises transformation. If you ignore them, the Bible promises consequences, and those consequences will follow you no matter how much money you make. But here is something that shocks most people when they hear it for the first time. Diligence alone will collapse without the second habit, and most hardworking people get this one completely wrong, which is why they stay stuck even though they are exhausted from trying. Let us start with habit number 1, and that is diligence. Diligence is not about working yourself into exhaustion. Diligence is not about grinding 20 hours a day or sacrificing your health and relationships for a paycheck. Diligence, according to the Bible, is about showing up consistently, even when the results feel slow, even when progress feels invisible, even when nobody notices or applauds what you are doing. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 12, verse 24, "The hand of the diligent will rule, but the lazy will be put to forced labor." Now, let me paint a picture for you so you can see exactly what this looks like in real life. Imagine two men who both work in the same industry. The first man works with explosive, intense energy for 3 days straight. He makes 50 phone calls. He finishes 5 projects. He stays up until midnight getting things done. He posts on social media about the hustle. Then on day 4, he crashes. He is exhausted. He is burned out. For the next 4 days, he does almost nothing. He tells himself he is recovering. He tells himself he earned the break. His income reflects this pattern. It goes up and down like a roller coaster. Some months are great. Other months are disasters. He lives in constant stress because he never knows what is coming next. Now imagine the second man. He never works with that kind of frantic intensity. He does not break records. He does not post dramatic stories about grinding. But every single morning, without fail, he shows up. He completes one task, then he completes another, then another. His progress feels boring. His days feel ordinary. But over the course of weeks, months, and years, something powerful begins to happen. His consistency builds momentum. His reputation grows. People begin to trust him because he is reliable. Opportunities start finding him instead of him having to chase them down. Same number of hours worked, same industry, completely different results. The difference is not talent. The difference is not luck. The difference is diligence. Diligence means daily consistency, not occasional intensity. It means finishing what you start, even when no one is watching, even when it feels like it does not matter. The opposite of diligence is not rest, because rest is biblical and necessary. The opposite of diligence is laziness, and laziness does not just delay your progress. Laziness actively destroys. It does not sit there doing nothing. It produces lack. It produces chaos. It produces regret. If you want a financial breakthrough, you do not need a miracle to fall out of the sky. You need to show up every single day and do the work that diligence requires. Diligence builds wealth slowly, steadily, and permanently. Laziness breaks it quickly, quietly, and completely. The Bible is ruthlessly clear on this point. But even if you master diligence, even if you show up every day and work hard, everything you build will silently leak away without the second habit. And this is the point where most hard-working people lose everything without even realizing it is happening. That second habit is discipline. Discipline protects whatever diligence creates. You can work incredibly hard. You can earn a great income. You can have every opportunity in the world. But if you lack self-control, if you lack the ability to delay gratification, you will still end up broke. And you will have no idea how it happened. Proverbs chapter 25 verse 28 warns us with a vivid image. A person without self-control is like a city whose walls are broken down. In ancient times, a city without walls was a city that could not protect itself. Enemies could walk in freely. Thieves could take whatever they wanted. There was no defense. That is exactly what happens to your finances when you lack discipline. Let me give you a perfect example that almost every American can relate to. Every single morning before you go to work, you stop at Starbucks. You order a venti caramel macchiato with extra caramel drizzle. It costs $5.75. It feels completely harmless. It feels like a small treat to start your day. It feels necessary, even. But let us do the math together. $5.75 multiplied by 30 days equals $172.50. That is $172 gone before you even sit down at your desk to start working. It is not a sin. It is not a disaster. It is just a habit, a small daily habit that quietly drains what you worked so hard to earn. Now, take that same principle and multiply it across every other area of your life. The impulse purchase at Target when you went in for one thing and left with 6. The subscription service you signed up for 6 months ago and completely forgot to cancel. The delivery fee you paid because cooking dinner felt like too much effort that night. Suddenly, without any major emergency or crisis, hundreds of dollars vanish from your account every single month, and when someone asks you where the money went, you genuinely cannot remember, because it disappeared through 1,000 tiny cracks you never even noticed. Discipline is the ability to choose long-term gain over short-term comfort. It is saying no to what feels good right now so that you can say yes to what matters most later. Without discipline, money does not disappear in big dramatic moments. It does not vanish because of emergencies or disasters. It seeps out slowly, quietly, through 1,000 small decisions that you barely think about. Here is the part that nobody wants to talk about, the uncomfortable truth that most people avoid. Debt does not start with an emergency. Debt starts when you lack the discipline to delay gratification. Every single dollar that you borrow because you could not wait, because you wanted it now because everyone else has it, is a piece of your future freedom that you just sold. The Bible warns us clearly that the borrower is slave to the lender. When you are in debt, you do not own your paycheck. Someone else does. You work, but the money goes to pay for decisions you made months or years ago. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is not about depriving yourself or living a miserable life. Discipline is protection. It guards your peace. It guards your options. It guards your future. But here is what is even more dangerous than lacking discipline. You can be diligent, you can be disciplined, you can work hard and control your spending, and you can still end up living under a curse if you ignore the third habit. Because this habit cuts off the blessing of God at the root before it ever has a chance to grow. That third habit is honesty, and honesty is the one that most people violate without even realizing it. God blesses integrity. God does not bless manipulation, shortcuts, or clever schemes. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 1 says this: "The Lord detests dishonest scales, but accurate weights find favor with him." Let me walk you through what this looks like in real life, because it is rarely obvious. Imagine you make a mistake at work. It is a small mistake. Nobody saw it happen. You could tell the truth and deal with an awkward conversation. Or you could tell a small lie, cover it up, and move on. Nobody gets hurt. Nobody finds out. You keep your reputation intact. You keep the client. You keep the paycheck. Or imagine you make a purchase that you know your spouse would not approve of, so you hide the expense. You delete the email receipt. You pay with cash. You tell yourself it is not a big deal because it is your money too. Or maybe you are running a business, and you have the opportunity to cut a corner on a deal. You can overcharge just a little bit. You can underdeliver just slightly. The other person will never notice. Everyone does it. It is just how business works. These moments feel small. They feel harmless. They feel like survival. But here is what the Bible reveals, and this is a principle that most people never learn until it is too late. Dishonesty does not just break trust with people. Dishonesty breaks the flow of blessing from God. Let me explain how this works. Integrity builds trust. Trust opens doors. Doors create opportunities. Opportunities multiply into wealth. But the moment you compromise honesty, even in ways that seem small and invisible, you activate a spiritual law that works against you. Whatever you gain dishonestly, you will lose just as quickly, and sometimes you will lose even more than you gained. I have watched this happen over and over again. I have seen people make money through manipulation. I have seen people profit from shortcuts and shady deals. For a season, it works. For a season, they look successful. They buy the nice things. They post the pictures. They seem like they are winning. But eventually, and it always happens eventually, the foundation starts to crack. The reputation crumbles. the relationships break, the money evaporates in ways that make no logical sense. The Bible says it clearly in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 11. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. If you want lasting provision, if you want wealth that actually stays, you cannot build it on lies. You cannot cut corners and expect God to bless the result. You cannot manipulate people and expect favor to follow you. Wealth that is built on integrity stands strong for generations. Wealth that is built on deceit collapses, and when it collapses, it takes everything with it. Now, this is not about being perfect. None of us are perfect. This is about direction. This is about choosing honesty even when it costs you in the short term, because what you protect today by telling the truth will compound into blessing tomorrow in ways you cannot even imagine right now. And once you lock in diligence, discipline, and honesty, the fourth habit is the one that separates people who stay comfortable from people who actually build wealth that lasts for generations. That fourth habit is planning, and planning is what creates predictable profit instead of random chaos. Proverbs chapter 21, verse 5 says, "The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty." Let me show you exactly what this means with a scenario that happens every single day across America. Take two people. Both of them earn $3,000 a month. Same job, same city, same cost of living, same bills to pay. The first person sits down on the last day of the month before the new month starts. He opens a notebook or a spreadsheet and he writes it all out. $1,200 for rent, $400 for groceries, $150 for gas, $200 for utilities, $300 for savings, $200 for giving, and the rest is divided between fun, margin, and unexpected expenses. When the month ends 30 days later, he knows exactly where every single dollar went. He does not feel stressed, he does not feel confused, he feels in control because he made a plan and he followed it. Now, take the second person. He does the exact opposite. He does not sit down and plan anything. He just wings it. He pays bills as they show up. He buys what feels necessary in the moment. He swipes his card and hopes it all works out in the end. By day 25, his bank account is nearly empty, and he has no idea how it happened. He feels anxious, he feels confused, he feels like he is working hard but getting nowhere. Same income, same expenses, totally different outcomes. The only difference between these two people is planning. Planning is not a lack of faith. Planning is not you trying to control everything and leaving no room for God to move. Planning is stewardship. Planning is taking what God gave you and managing it with intentionality, wisdom, and care. Do you remember the story of Joseph in Egypt? Joseph saved an entire nation, not through miracles, not through last-minute supernatural intervention, but through a plan that God revealed to him in a dream. God told him that 7 years of abundance were coming, followed by 7 years of famine. Joseph did not ignore the plan and wait for a miracle during the famine. He obeyed the plan during the abundance. He stored grain. He prepared. He managed resources wisely. And when the famine came, Egypt survived while other nations starved. That is the power of planning. The Bible says in Proverbs chapter 21 verse 5 that haste leads to poverty. When you make financial decisions in a rush, when you buy things without thinking, when you ignore your budget because it feels restrictive or boring, you are inviting chaos into your life. But when you plan, when you write it down, when you decide in advance where your money is going to go, you turn confusion into clarity. You turn stress into peace. You turn poverty into profit. Planning is not a boring chore that kills spontaneity. Planning is a powerful tool that creates freedom. And when you combine diligence, discipline, honesty, and planning together, you set yourself up for a breakthrough that most people never experience. But if you stop here, if you think those 4 habits are enough, You will miss the one habit that unlocks everything else, the habit that activates a level of supernatural provision that goes beyond anything you can earn, save, or plan for on your own. That fifth and final habit is generosity. And generosity creates supernatural increase that defies all human logic. Proverbs chapter 11, verse 24, makes a statement that sounds completely impossible. One person gives freely, yet gains even more. Another withholds unduly, but comes to poverty. Read that again slowly. One person gives freely and ends up with more. Another person withholds everything and ends up with less. How is that possible? How can giving lead to gaining? How can releasing your money result in you having more of it? Because generosity is not an economic principle that follows the rules of math. Generosity is a spiritual law that operates in a completely different realm. Let me paint two pictures for you so you can see this clearly. Picture the first person. He keeps everything. Every single dollar he earns is a dollar he guards with his life. He is terrified of losing what little he has, so he holds on tight. He never gives. He never helps. He never supports anyone or anything beyond his own immediate needs. But the tighter he grabs onto his money, the more anxious he becomes. He is always worried. He is always stressed. He is always afraid that something will come and take it all away. And over time, something strange happens. Opportunities pass him by. People stop inviting him into things. Favor seems to avoid him. Doors that should open stay closed. He ends up stuck, isolated, and still broke despite all his efforts to protect what he had. Now picture the second person. He gives intentionally. Not recklessly, not foolishly, but purposefully. He tithes 10% of everything he earns back to God because the Bible commands it. He helps a neighbor who is struggling. He supports a cause that he believes in. He gives his time, his skills, his resources. And over time, something unexplainable starts to happen. Doors open that should have stayed closed. Promotions come that were not expected. Opportunities appear out of nowhere. Provision shows up in ways that money alone cannot buy. His life begins to flow. He experiences peace that does not make sense given his circumstances. He has favor that he did not earn. This is not a coincidence. This is not luck. This is the spiritual law of generosity in action. I have seen this happen with my own eyes more times than I can count. Let me tell you about one woman in particular, a single mom in Ohio. She was barely making it. She worked full-time, but after rent, groceries, and childcare, there was almost nothing left. She messaged me 2 years ago and told me her situation. I told her about these 5 habits, and the one that terrified her the most was generosity. She said, "I do not have anything to give. I can barely pay my own bills." But she made a decision. She committed to give $20 a month, even though it scared her, even though it felt impossible. 6 months later, she messaged me again. She got an unexpected raise at work. A year later, her debt was cut in half. 18 months later, she had savings for the first time in her adult life. Same job, same city, same expenses, different heart, different habits. Generosity shifted something in the spiritual realm that planning alone could never touch. The Bible promises in Luke chapter 6, verse 38, "Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." That is not a metaphor. That is not poetic language. That is a guarantee from God Himself. When you give, when you release what you have with faith and trust, God opens the floodgates. But here is the warning that comes with it, and you need to hear this clearly. Withholding does not protect you. Withholding does not keep you safe. Withholding leads to stagnation, anxiety, fear, and eventually poverty. When you refuse to give, when you hold everything tight out of fear, you close the valve. Nothing flows in because nothing flows out. You cut yourself off from the very blessing you are trying to protect. Generosity is the habit that unlocks everything else. It proves that you trust God more than you trust your bank account. It proves that you believe His promises are real. And when you live that way, when you give even when it does not make sense, you step into a level of provision, favor, and blessing that no strategy, no hustle, no plan can ever produce on its own. Now that you understand all 5 habits, let me give you a simple, practical action plan that you can start this week. Do not try to fix everything at once. Do not try to overhaul your entire financial life in one day. That is not how transformation works. Transformation happens through small, consistent steps. Here is what I want you to do. Pick one habit, just one. Commit to it for 1 week. Week 1, focus on diligence. Every single day for 7 days, finish one small financial task that you have been avoiding. Pay that bill you keep putting off. Make that phone call. Update that budget spreadsheet. Organize that receipt. Just one task every day. Week 2, focus on discipline. Find one unnecessary expense in your life and cut it out completely. Maybe it is the streaming service you forgot you were paying for. Maybe it is the daily coffee run. Maybe it is the impulse shopping on Amazon. Find one thing, cut it, and redirect that money towards something that actually matters. Week 3, focus on honesty. Take one financial relationship or one hidden expense and make it fully transparent. Tell your spouse about the purchase you have been hiding. Confess the debt you have been avoiding. Correct the mistake you made at work. Just one act of honesty. Week 4, focus on planning. Sit down with a pen and paper or a simple spreadsheet and create a 30-day budget. Write out your total income. Write out every expected expense. Decide in advance where every dollar is going to go before the month even starts. Week 5, focus on generosity. Give something intentionally. Maybe it is $20. Maybe it is $50. Maybe it is your time. Maybe it is your skill. Whatever it is, give it with purpose, with faith, and with trust that God will multiply it back to you. Small changes, when multiplied over time, create massive transformation. You do not need to overhaul your entire life today. You just need to start with one habit this week and let consistency do the rest of the work. That single mom in Ohio that I told you about earlier did this exact plan. Week 1, she committed to finishing one daily financial task. Week 5, she gave $20 that she could barely afford to give. 6 months later, everything in her life shifted. Her debt went down, her savings went up, her stress disappeared, her peace returned. Same income, same job, different habits. That story can be your story too if you are willing to take the first step. But before we finish, I need to give you a warning, because ignoring these 5 habits does not just delay your progress. Ignoring these habits guarantees financial chaos, stress, and poverty for the rest of your life. Let me tell you what I have watched happen to people who refuse to change. I had a close friend who ignored all 5 of these habits for 5 straight years. He skipped budgeting because it felt too restrictive. He told himself he would figure it out as he went. Then the small debts started piling up. Credit cards, personal loans, buy now, pay later schemes. Then the bigger debts came. Then the stress started bleeding into his marriage. Arguments over money became daily. Then his focus at work started slipping because he was always distracted, always worried, always behind. Then his reputation began to crack because people stopped trusting him to follow through. Then opportunities started closing because nobody wanted to work with someone who seemed unreliable. And then finally, poverty arrived. Not with a loud crash, not with a dramatic announcement. It just showed up quietly, one ignored habit at a time, like a thief in the night. Debt grew until it felt insurmountable. Stress rose until it affected his health. Savings disappeared until there was no cushion left for emergencies. Doors closed until opportunities stopped coming altogether. And suddenly, he found himself trapped in a cycle that he could not escape. Not because he lacked income, not because he lacked talent, but because he lacked the habits that would have protected everything he worked so hard to build. Neglect is the most expensive habit you will ever have in your entire life. It will cost you more than any purchase. It will cost you more than any emergency. It will cost you more than any mistake. Do not let that be your future. But here is the promise for those who choose to obey, and this promise is just as real as the warning. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 9 and 10 says, "Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine." God blesses stewardship. God multiplies honesty. God honors consistency. God rewards diligence. God provides for the generous. When you apply God's habits, you experience God's results. These 5 principles are not chains meant to restrict you, control you, or make your life harder. They are keys. They are keys designed to unlock the abundance, the provision, the peace, and the blessing that God has already prepared for you. You are not as far from breakthrough as you think. You are not years away. You are one habit away, one decision away, 1 week away from a completely different financial future. So here is what I want you to do right now, and I mean right now. Not later, not tomorrow, but in this exact moment. Pull out your phone, open your notes app, write down 1 sentence. This week I will, and then finish that sentence with 1 habit. Diligence, discipline, honesty, planning, generosity. Pick one. Write it down, commit to it, and then start tomorrow morning. Do not wait for perfect conditions. Do not wait until you feel ready. Do not wait until your finances are already fixed. Start now with what you have, where you are. Habits, not wishes, shape your future. God has already written the wisdom. He has given you the formula. He has shown you the path. Now it is your turn to take the step. And when you do, when you choose obedience over convenience, when you choose discipline over comfort, when you choose generosity over fear, you will open the door to provision, blessing, peace, and financial freedom exactly the way God promised you from the very beginning.